How much would you be surprised to learn that someone you know is in fact this creature? I think very much. So in order to get to know such creatures better, today I will briefly tell you about the new episodes of the Grimm series. Enjoy your viewing pleasure. Prince Eric Renard's beautiful romantic evening with his former witch Ada Lind is interrupted by a call from his father with orders to go to Portland to meet Baron Samedi. With all that said, the relationship between Officer Nick and his girlfriend, Juliet, slowly returns even after she has lost her memory. The next morning, an unidentified coyote was rambling about the house while his wife lay beside him. Sergeant Wu and Franco arrived on the call and were attacked, leading to the target being shot and the police noticing a strange green substance oozing from his nose. Meanwhile in Vienna, Ada Lind signs a blood contract with Stefania against her will without even knowing its terms. And old Frau Pesch is watching the whole thing. When Nick and Hank arrive on the scene, they notice that there are no signs of murder on the dead woman in the house, and when the detectives leave, Burkhart notices a suspicious man with a cylinder. And when they arrive at the station, the detectives find in the dead man's file a report of his death, in which case it turns out that he died twice. Meanwhile, Ada Lind receives threats from Frau Pesch telling her not to trust Stefania, because if the creatures find out that Ada Lind is carrying the royal child, she will be worth more dead than alive. Nick's friend Monroe is visited by Juliet and asks him to show her what he wanted to show her until the moment she lost her memory a couple of weeks ago. Deciding to tell her about the creatures, the tree hugger Bud offers to do so in the spice shop. In the meantime, Nick arrives at the hospital where the man who recently attacked the police was pronounced dead. At the same hospital, Nick again notices a man with a cylinder, but alas, the corpse is not at the expected location. Upon arriving at the spice shop, Monroe's girlfriend Rosalie began to theorize about Juliet to show her identity. And at Dr. Harper's, while performing an autopsy on the alleged victim, the corpse suddenly wakes up. Back to the spice shop. At the epicenter of it all is Juliet, who begins to learn that everyone she knows turns out to be an incomprehensible being. When the detectives learn at the station that the woman's corpse has woken up, they immediately head to her emergency room. Meanwhile, Stefania learns about the threats from Frau Pesch and becomes enraged, and she in turn meets one of Prince Eric's wards and asks for a meeting with him to uncover the mystery of the girl who is nesting with him. The cadaver girl does not turn up at the hospital and they are going to watch the cameras. With that, Captain Sean is notified of the news that there is a royal fetus outside the royal family, but does not give free rein to speculation, as he himself slept with Ada Lind a little earlier. Viewing the cameras pays off, as right on them a man in a cylinder takes the woman away. And Sergeant Wu reports an analysis of a strange green liquid. It's a mixture of psychotropic substances that leads to Lazarus syndrome, the moment when the victim appears dead but awakens after a while and is out of control. At this point, our hatchet man plummets in front of the mechanic into a cracher mortal and poisons the man. Grimm and Hank, meanwhile, have already found notes about Cratcher Mortal in their book, and they are immediately dialed by Monroe asking to look into the spice shop. And our Cratcher Mortal quietly walks onto the bus and spits this horrible liquid into the creature. The next day, Sean's brother Eric arrives in Portland and invites him to a meeting to bury the tomahawks of war, but Sean's wariness forces him to find out what purpose his brother actually came to Portland for. In addition to all these circumstances, a new catch emerges. The Cratcher Mortal doesn't just turn everyone into zombies, he also collects them into one container for a purpose we don't know. Nick discovers that his friends have shown Juliet their real selves, so they both have to get a little nervous before dinner. Meanwhile, Eric, who has already checked into one of Portland's luxury hotels, waits for his guest, who turns out to be none other than Cratcher Mortal, because he worked under the patronage of the prince. And we are waiting for everyone's favorite inscription to continue, but I won't bore you with the sequel in a few days, so I'll tell you what happened next right now. At a dinner together, Eric decided to watch the infestation process, so he called his security guard who had worked for him for 7 years, and Cratcher Mortal plunged him into excruciating pain, which thrilled Eric. Our love couple, meanwhile, were finally reunited, and Cratcher Mortal was performing a strange ritual, after which he sent his zombies to Portland. While Monroe finally had a quiet dinner with Rosalie, Sean Renard got photos of certificates, passports, and death certificates found by Sebastian in his brother Eric's desk. And the zombies begin their operation and attack the people in the cable car. At Adeline's, everything seems calm at first glance. They just bring her dinner, but calm until it turns out that the waiter was sent by Frau Pesch, who has slipped Adeline something and taken the key to her room. Pesch snuck into her room at night and she was already unconscious, so she just drew her blood and we were immediately transported to the events of Portland, where everyone went crazy. Sean summoned Nick to talk after his beautiful night with Juliet, but the town itself was a total mess. Sean told Nick that Eric was up to something, but Sergeant Wu immediately informed them of the commotion in town. So when they arrived on the scene, they went to search the building, but their Wu was bitten by an unknown woman and a little later she flew out the window in an attempt to attack Nick. The cops managed to apprehend the woman, and Nick and Hank take the man to a spice shop for examination, where Rosalie and Monroe find a recipe for a cure and proceed to make it and then inject it again into the rampaging L. By this time, Frau Pesch has managed to create the potion and switch guises with Ada Lind, as Stephanie immediately gets a call suggesting that she take Frau Pesch out. At the station, Wu learns about the missing passengers on the bus, and from an employee of the car mechanic that the motorist who called him the day before was Baron Samedi. Wu also reports that he got a tetanus shot after the rabid lady and the car was found. The cops go to the scene where the deadly manslayer left the car, which was registered in the name of Richard Malpas. In the meantime, Sean arrives at Eric's house for dinner, who suggests that the captain pick up Grimm's key so that Eric can return it to the royal family. Upon arrival at the Baron's car, they find voodoo items in the trunk and Nick points out that the car has been abandoned just outside the container yard. The man in the spice shop fully recovers and Monroe calls Grimm. Adelinda Pesch appears in Stephanie's tent, who tells the young witch of her plan, which is carried out the next moment by one of her sons, and the gypsy plunges a dagger into Frau Pesch's belly to get her heart and use it to restore Adelinda's powers. The witch assumes her true form, but the real Adelind, meanwhile, wakes up and, noticing the witch's clothes, smiles victoriously. When Nick arrives at the spice shop with Juliet, the man tells him that the Baron took him to a dark room, but first there was a lot of green. He remembered the groans of many people and thought he had gone to hell, but when he heard a loud horn, he realized he was still alive. Adeline's question about what kind of creature he is was out of place. He asks Rosalie to hide the key in the shop and start making a cure for the zombie condition. Later, the team heads to the harbor where Baron opens the containers and exposes the team to a zombie attack. Nick separates from the others in order to get some of the victims away and runs into Baron Samedi. He follows him and, in an attempt to stop him, falls through one of the containers, where he discovers a coffin and a passport in the name of Thomas Chirac with his picture on it. The next moment, the Baron turns into Cratcher Mortal and spits in Grimm's face. Monroe, Rosalie, and Juliet manage to lock themselves in the car to avoid a zombie attack, and Prince Eric appears in the casket container, in which Nick now lies in a state of anabiosis and wishes Grimm a safe journey. Friends, the next episodes of Grimm will come out as Season 3 in one video. I'll be doing it a little at a time and then I'll release a full-length video. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel and like. Do not leave these buttons without attention. Not for nothing YouTube invented them to support the authors. All are grateful for watching. Good luck, and I always say goodbye.